Imagine this, a man in his early 50s, a father, a husband, and someone who always had dreams for the future, suddenly gone. His family is left with questions, wondering how something so preventable led to such a tragedy. Today, we're talking about a real-life story, a man who lost his life to smoking. And what's worse, this could happen to anyone. Cigarettes, though so common, have the power to destroy lives, and in today's video, I'll take you through the heart-wrenching story of a man who died due to smoking. Then, we'll dive into the science of how cigarettes can wreak havoc on your body. But before we start, I want to know where you're watching from. Leave a comment down below with your city, and I'll be sure to give you a shout out in our next video. Now, let's get into it. The tragic story. John Wilson, 52 years old, seemed like an ordinary man. He had a good job, a loving family, and dreams for the future. But there was one thing in John's life that cast a shadow over everything. He was a long-time smoker. It started when he was just 18. At first, it was just a cigarette here and there with friends, something that felt harmless, even social. But, over the years, it turned into a full-blown addiction. A pack a day, sometimes even more. John knew smoking was bad for him. Who doesn't, right? But like so many others, he thought the real consequences were far off. "It won't happen to me," was what he used to say, shrugging off concerns from his wife, Sarah, and his 2 teenage children. He promised to quit someday. But someday never came. One evening, John came home from work feeling more tired than usual. He thought it was just a rough day. But over the next few weeks, his fatigue didn't go away. He found himself short of breath after doing simple tasks, like walking up the stairs or carrying groceries. His persistent cough, which he had blamed on the cold weather, only worsened. Despite his family's urging, John didn't go to the doctor right away. "It's just a cough," he said. But it wasn't just a cough. Months later, after finally seeing a doctor, John received devastating news. He had advanced lung cancer. The cancer had already spread to other parts of his body, including his liver and bones. The doctor's words echoed in the room, "If only you had come earlier." It was too late for surgery, and though chemotherapy could offer some hope, it wouldn't be enough to save him. Over the next year, John's health deteriorated quickly. The strong, healthy man he once was faded into someone barely recognizable. He lost weight, struggled to breathe even with oxygen, and experienced excruciating pain. His children watched as their father was consumed by an illness that could have been prevented. His wife was left devastated, knowing there was nothing she could do but watch him suffer. Just 18 months after his diagnosis, John passed away. His family was left heartbroken, asking themselves over and over, why didn't he quit? His death was a stark reminder of the deadly consequences of smoking, a reminder that many families face every day around the world. How did smoking cause this? The science behind it. Now, let's break down exactly what happened to John's body and why smoking was the primary cause of his death. Cigarettes contain over 7,000 chemicals, many of which are toxic, and about 70 of those chemicals are known to cause cancer. Some of the most harmful substances include nicotine, tar, carbon monoxide, and formaldehyde. Each time you inhale cigarette smoke, these toxins flood your lungs and enter your bloodstream, affecting almost every organ in your body. 1. Lung cancer. Lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer-related deaths worldwide, and it's no secret that smoking is the #1 cause of lung cancer. According to the World Health Organization, more than 80% of lung cancer cases are directly linked to smoking. But how does this happen? When you inhale cigarette smoke, the harmful chemicals damage the cells in your lungs. Over time, the repeated exposure to these chemicals causes the DNA in your lung cells to mutate. These mutations lead to the uncontrollable growth of cells, forming tumors. Once these tumors grow, they begin to block the airways and spread to other parts of the body, just as it did in John's case. By the time John started experiencing symptoms, his lung cancer had already reached an advanced stage. That's the insidious nature of smoking-related cancers. Often, there are no symptoms until the cancer has already spread. 2. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD. Another major effect of smoking is the development of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD. This is a group of lung diseases that block airflow and make it difficult to breathe. COPD includes conditions like chronic bronchitis and emphysema. In John's case, long before the cancer diagnosis, he likely already had COPD. Smokers are up to 12 times more likely to die from COPD than non-smokers. Smoking irritates and inflames the lining of your lungs, which leads to scarring and the destruction of lung tissue. Over time, this limits the ability of your lungs to transfer oxygen to the rest of your body, which explains why John experienced shortness of breath even during simple activities. COPD is progressive, which means it gets worse over time. There is no cure, and for someone like John, quitting smoking too late meant irreversible lung damage. 3. Heart disease and stroke. You might think smoking only damages the lungs, but that's not the case. Smoking also increases the risk of heart disease and stroke. In fact, smokers are 2 to 4 times more likely to suffer from heart disease than non-smokers. But how does smoking impact the heart? When you smoke, the chemicals in cigarettes cause your blood vessels to narrow and harden, limiting the flow of blood to your heart and brain. This buildup of plaque in the arteries leads to a condition called atherosclerosis, which can cause heart attacks and strokes. In John's case, while lung cancer was the primary cause of his death, his weakened heart contributed to the rapid decline in his health. His body was fighting on all fronts, and it simply couldn't keep up. 4. Weakened immune system. Another devastating effect of smoking is the weakening of your immune system. Nicotine, one of the main chemicals in cigarettes, suppresses your body's immune response. This makes it harder for your body to fight off infections and illnesses, whether it's a cold or something as serious as cancer. In John's final months, his body was unable to fend off infections, making his already difficult fight against cancer even harder. His immune system was compromised after years of smoking, leaving him defenseless against the disease. Why do people continue to smoke? You might be wondering, with all this information, why do people continue to smoke? The answer is complex, but there are a few key factors. 1. Addiction. Nicotine is incredibly addictive. In fact, studies have shown that nicotine is as addictive as heroin or cocaine. When you smoke, nicotine stimulates the release of dopamine in your brain, which creates feelings of pleasure and relaxation. Over time, your body becomes dependent on nicotine to feel good, making it incredibly difficult to quit. 2. Social and cultural factors. For many, smoking starts as a social habit. It's something they do with friends, at parties, or during breaks at work. Unfortunately, what begins as a casual habit often turns into a full-blown addiction. 3. Underestimating the risks. Another reason people continue to smoke is that they underestimate the risks. As we saw with John, many smokers think that the real consequences of smoking are far off in the future. They don't think it will happen to them. But the truth is, smoking can affect your health much sooner than you think, and the damage it causes is often irreversible. The benefits of quitting smoking. The good news is that it's never too late to quit smoking. Even if you've smoked for years, quitting can still have significant benefits for your health. Within just 20 minutes of quitting, your heart rate and blood pressure start to drop. Within 12 hours, the carbon monoxide levels in your blood return to normal. And within a few weeks, your lung function begins to improve. Over time, your risk of heart disease, stroke, and lung cancer decreases significantly. Even if John had quit smoking years earlier, he could have extended his life and avoided much of the suffering he experienced. John's story is a heartbreaking reminder of the deadly consequences of smoking. His family will forever wonder what life would have been like if he had quit sooner. But you don't have to go down the same path. If you or someone you know is struggling with smoking, take action today. Quitting smoking is one of the best things you can do for your health, and it's never too late to make a change. There are countless resources available, from nicotine replacement therapies to support groups that can help you through the process. If you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from so I can give you a shout out in the